No,
Yeah,
all right.
No.
Okay, everybody, welcome back. Thank you. Thank you also for completing those evaluation forms at the end of the last lesson. I didn't actually hand them out during the filming process, but thanks for getting all that information back to me. I will hand out these ones this time around. So in this lesson, we're going to quickly put together some tomato tarts using a puff pastry base, which we'll just put into the oven. We're also going to fill our fancy bases, which we made before. So to that avail, I have pre-made some fillings. Just like to press the button on the stove, thank you very much. We've got a chicken mix. All these recipes, or this recipe, will be included in your handout. The rest of it is really just leftovers, which is another joy of finger food. So we'll come to that as we get there. Let me just make sure we're the same group, still the emergency procedures that we went through before. And during this lesson, we will be filling our bases and just whipping up a couple of extra ones. Now we've made some quiche as well, but we'll get onto that in a second. Okay, so just to start off with, we've got our beautiful little bases. If everyone takes their little plate of their wontons, I'll grab some trays to put those onto. And in this mix we have, you can see it's a little bit sort of moist but not too wet, and it's sort of cut up quite small because it's going into a small space. So you don't want big chunky bits sticking out or anything. If we can just spoon a little bit of this. I've got some teaspoons in here and we'll just pass it along so we can fill them up. You might find that it's easier to take them off your plate because the plates go in. You don't have to necessarily fill all of these, we can donate a couple over here. And then just scoop your, probably again less is more, working with less bits. Just scoop your little bit of your filling inside, fill it up. If you think that's not quite enough, you can always get a bit more. If you think it's overflowing, you can always tip it back in and start again. So this is a chicken mix, which I will send the recipe for. And you can see you want your cup to be relatively full, not like a great big fountain, but also not half empty. So long as it looks appetizingly full. If you want to start there, I'll grab a couple more teaspoons. There's some more spoons there, Paul, if you'd like to jump in as well. And you can just fill them on there, and I'll get a little tray to put them all on. And we'll just pass that along. I might even split that up. For the vegetarians, again, our beautiful roasted vegetables. I've roasted up some vegetables which we can put into a vegetarian quiche, or as an alternative for your fillers, I just mix up some chopped up roasted vegetables, store-bought hummus, or if you want to do it with a tzatziki and a cucumber sort of mix. Another thing which is really good is salmon with a bit of cut up onion in it, limited by imagination. I say about leftovers because we've got some curried vegetables from last night, and that would be really good. You can put it easy, a little bit of leftover curry in there, mix the rice through it, and just slip it in there. You can put anything in here. And I heard you talking about a sweet alternative before, Dimity. You could put some chocolate mousse, strawberries, even pate, limited by imagination. So for the veggies, I thought we could just mix up a little bit of the roasted vegetables with a bit of this hummus. And Ian, if you want to do that, this is a little bit of hummus and some of the vegetables there. Here's a little bowl to whack it into. Just put some of the vegetables in and a little bit of the hummus.
Mix it together in the bowl.
Yeah.
Or mix it together.
Mix it together in the bowl, and then we can use that to put into the cups. I think that you could just put the roasted vegetables in by themselves, but the hummus sort of binds it
Be a bit dry,
a bit together, yes. And it also gives it another layer of flavour with the garlic and the chickpeas.
That's enough, Ian. That's fine.
I reckon that's probably enough. And then just put a bit of that in. Perfect. It's always good to get them. Not that Ian doesn't cook, he does cook, but fancy flipping around stuff. So they're great. You want to pass that along? Dimity, they look really good. And guys, they're good. You can see that they're not too full.
Half of Bruce's, I can't take all the credit.
Oh, and Bruce, you've done a great job there. And you've got some vegetarian ones. Do you want to do a couple of veggie ones there? Yep, some vegetable ones as well. So because we've already cooked these bases, these guys are ready to go. I'll just grab a tray which we can put them on.
Is it okay to commingle the veggie with the meat?
Any of the vegetarians?
Or should you have them separately when you're entertaining them? Oh, it smells good.
Just got those out. Now let me see, they're looking really good, guys, doing well. See the vegetable mix? If you make the vegetables a little bit smaller, they'll fit in quite easily. If they're a bit bigger, they sort of are a little bit more rustic. There's nothing wrong with that. Again, as I said before, in the film that actually got chopped out, if you look at your finger food and you think, maybe it's a little bit lackluster, we'll go through that with the garnishes in the plating. You can always sprinkle a bit of herbs on it, or a little bit of a colour change with some sort of garnish. They are looking really good. So the other thing, I've already done that, haven't I? Oh. So with the rounds which we cut out before, pass that over. Everybody can see this. I've just put those little rounds which we cut out of the pastry into this mini muffin pan. And then the filler that we'll do with these ones, we're going to make some tomato tarts. So I've cut up some olive mix, which is just simply black olives. But you can put whatever you like in the base of the tomato tart. It can be olives, a tapenade, like a roast capsicum tapenade, or smashed up roasted garlic, bit of mustard. Pesto would be perfect. Pesto would be delicious. Anything you like, but basically something that gives it a little bit of flavour. And in saying that, what we're going to do is put our little round of pastry with a tiny little bit of the olive mix in it, and then we use the cherry tomatoes. So I've cut the cherry tomatoes in half already, and then we'll top that with a little sprinkle of feta cheese, and then that can go in. So the pastry is raw, and it will all cook together and swell up and really hold those tomatoes in.
And what pastry is this again, Kate?
So this is actually a puff pastry, which we've cut out the circles for. And as you can see, we did start to do that before we had a bit of a problem with the video. So we're just going to continue putting those in there. If you wouldn't mind, Chris, there's some tomatoes. You want to do a couple?
Yep.
And sprinkle some of your tiny little bit of feta cheese on the top. We've already got the olives in the mix there, so that's good. Just a tiny dash of that. Oh, there is a little bit more feta cheese if you need some of that. Now let's see. Sure, that's looking really good. And Jen, yours are really good too.
What? We share.
You're sharing. That's always good. Everyone's interacting with each other. Now, we've almost got a party. Almost. So, while you're finishing that off, Cheryl, I'll just get these other examples, which we've whipped up together. Yeah, everyone washing their hands, that's great. Sorry, size change. It's interesting working in a small space. That's why it's always essential to make sure you clean your bench between each serve of stuff. I also had tzatziki, which would work with this mix if you wanted to do a sort of more fresh salady thing, but we can have that later with our pastry things. I'll do it and finish those off. Oh, thank you, Jen. Just slip those in the fridge here. Perfect. They came out great, didn't he? And so that will give a bit of a different colour combination. With the feta cheese on the top, it'll sort of go a little bit golden. You've got the red then of the tomato, and that is a perfect sort of baked top onto which a garnish will look really good, which we'll go through with the plating and the. So we were talking about herbs before. With this, any fresh herbs would be really good. Rosemary would work. Something green to give it a bit of zing. These are great at Christmas. You've got the red, the white, and the green.
And dairy-free, you could leave off the feta.
Dairy-free or vegan, you can leave off the feta. That's great. And you know, I don't know what you could put some TVP, textured vegetable protein, or some sort of crumble on the top. Wonton crumbles of the sort of browned bits would be a nice textural thing as well.
Nuts, maybe?
Nuts, I know you get a lot. Yes, pine nuts would be nice on the top, or almonds sprinkled. As with everything else, limited by imagination. So they look pretty perfect. Good effort, everyone. I'll slip those ones in the oven. And so these ones, again, with the pastry, you probably need to bake for 25 minutes just to ensure that the puff pastry is cooked underneath because it is raw and it's sitting on the tomato is sitting on the top. Just excuse me behind, I'll slip this in here. Okay, so unfortunately this part was lost from the filming, and I am going to say that because in the previous section of the film we took your short crust pastry rounds that we made, and you very, very, very carefully, skillfully demonstrated to me filling up the cases with the fillings. We've got a Lorraine here with the bacon and the shallots and the chives, and then we've got the vegetarian options with the roasted vegetables as we used in the cups just now, poured with the milk and egg mix. All of these in the recipe handouts, so you can refer back. But can I just say, they look fantastic.
Yeah.
You filled them all. Look, you can see.
The level's good, isn't it?
You can see where some of them have come over the edge, but not too bad. You've caught it really well where the cups were put in slightly sideways, as we discussed. So some of them have a higher side and a lower side, but you obviously have to keep the level under that low side so it doesn't pour out. I think they look fantastic. They smell quite good. So you've done a really good job there. Again, with the tiny little ones, we've managed to make a few little mini quiche in the same technique so that we could do a little bit more practice and try some different sizes. Then you can see with these, with the smaller ones, what we've done is we've put that lemon mixture in there, which could be a lemon meringue, but it's actually a citrus tart in this case because we didn't put the egg on the top. If you want to mix up that egg mix and pipe it on or spoon it on, you bake that all together with the egg mix and the lemon, as we discussed. But you can see that the pastry has cooked around, so that was also put in with the raw pastry, no blind baking required, and they've cooked quite well on the bottoms. With the larger quiche, if I can find one that's going to pop out very easily. Similarly, you've got a nice golden crust there. So that's a really simple pastry. And you can see some of them I've rolled thinner, and some of them were rolled thinner, and some of them were rolled a bit thicker, but they've all cooked perfectly fine. So you don't have to be too fussy about getting everything exactly right. So long as you order it in the correct way, they come out quite well. So the other thing was these bread baskets, and I thought we could fill them possibly with the same sort of stuff, if you don't mind. Or we could do a tzatziki and a salad one, maybe a bit of salmon. But we might just fill them with the same stuff. Yep, that's fantastic, because these flavours are ones which we like. So here's the chicken mix back again. We've got some bacon which went into the quiche, they'd be nice in there too, and a bit more roasted vegetables. So the hummus and the hummus mix.
So there's room to...
No, thank you, preemptive, it was great, but
Tzatziki and salmon sounds good too, doesn't it?
tzatziki and salmon. I must say, these bread baskets were an additional thing which we threw in because How simple is that?
Yeah.
I thought, you know, while we're doing this lesson, we could adapt. We had the bread there, and that's a really easy resource to access. Yeah, and it's so simple. You can keep that little guy out easily. So while we spoon those in, I think everybody's got that under control. If I could just give out the, I'm not sure how long we've been running for this tape.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh, 15 minutes. All right, we're not quite there. We're gonna have to redo something, I think, to fill in the time.
How long does it need?
Well, I think we lost about a half an hour's worth of filming, unfortunately, while we were making the quiches.
Maybe you could show it. Can you explain how to get these out of the trays? Because that's a problem.
That is a
Garnishing
good
too
point.
is another thing.
The garnishing is in the next course,
But
unfortunately.
actually,
Yeah.
can you actually, once they're cooked, freeze them?
So yes, the quiche can be frozen like this. I'll just start at the start, because you gave a good point there, and that is, how do you get them out? If you've managed to pour your egg level so that nothing's come over the top, then if you just put a knife down the side, they just pop out quite easily. You know,
Yes,
exactly
I can
like
imagine
that.
after going to all that trouble and then not getting them out, that would be
We'll put them on a plate, get them out.
It's horrifying. Yeah, Bruce, if you'd like to grab a tray from over there, please.
Would you like
Behind
to?
you.
And then for those ones which have sort of
Right
stuck a
inside.
little bit, if you just take your knife and very gently run it around the edges, you can see when they give up. If you find a space where it's not stuck, it's start there, then that would, look, unfortunately you've done these all so well, I don't have to show you contingency planning now. Here's another one where it's slightly stuck, so you just run the knife around the edge and then they pop out. So Chris, if you would like to pop those guys out, and we can place those onto the tray here. And yes, if you would like to fill those, Betty, that'd be great, please. Timothy, would you like to help? And we can share them around and we'll put those ones in. Yes, put those ones on there too. Will they all come out? They're getting, that's easy, and you can see that that's great. Got that
Oh,
one?
okay. Well,
And we don't need everybody to demonstrate filling that, because unfortunately we did all of that on the film, which we lost. So everybody, I have observed everybody doing that. Betty, that looks good. Dimity, you've got it under control. Again, remember, however high your edges are, you don't need to fill it too much. If it's a flat one, just a little bit. That looks great. See, and that's interesting too, Betty, with that one. If everyone just stops and has a look, there. Betty's just filled the square bread, which we came with the pointed edges. So that still looks like it's got the pointed edges. It's not filled to the point where it's sort of hiding that in there. And the wontons all look pretty good there. And I'll do a sides change. So, Bruce, would you care to just grab another plate, please? And Dimity, here's your little
my leaf.
leaf
I'll set the
garnish.
doll on the edge of the.
That can go there. We'll get onto that with the garnishing sections next.
That's the plate.
Cool. And so we'll put this, so the savoury we'll put on with there, and the sweet ones we'll put on with here. So we did the savoury with the quiche, and then the sweets with the lemon. Does that come out? Here's another knife. You got that? These ones all come out.
You might need another plate.
What do we need? Another plate? No, I
No,
think
couldn't
that looks
they,
pretty
could they
good.
go on here?
No, oh, I see, yes, there's some more. Yes, they can go onto there, because we're just getting this organised for the final course. Remember, so we've done the bases, now we're doing the filling, and for the last section, we'll look at plating and garnish. Oh, yeah, hang on, I'll just... You got a stuck one? There you go, we'll use the knife. You can do it, Betty, if you like. Just run it around the edge.
That's it.
That's it. that was good. So you started where it wasn't stuck on.
Yeah, there's been a bit of an over. That's where it is.
So you can see, yeah, okay, you can see that where it's come out the sides.
That's okay.
So the objectives of this unit, this course, this training session, was to fill the bases which we've done. We've filled that up, they look pretty good. I think you've got the gist of how much you need to put in. Was also to use those pastry rounds which we cut out in the first lesson, and so they look splendid. If I went to a party, I'd be eating one of those probably first.
Yeah, I'm hungry.
And then our tiny little citrus tarts, which we filled with the easiest meringue in the world. Recipes included in your printing handouts, which I'll email to you as well because you always lose pieces of paper these days. They look great. With the garnishing, we can think about something to put on the top of those. So, are there any other things which we wanted to perhaps talk about in terms of where you might use these? Can you see application for these skills which we're doing today in your actual life? You know, are you gonna, I heard Christy was saying that it's gonna be your birthday soon, so these will be perfect. Betty's Betty's birthday.
Yes.
So,
Yes, definitely want all the recipes, please.
And so, as we were saying, the joy is you can make the bases well in advance. You can have them in an airtight container, and you can just put them all together on the day. These will stay like this. We were talking about how wet is the mixture and will it go soggy. Obviously your bread cups, which we've got at the front there, you would do probably last because they are more likely to absorb a moister filling. But something like the vegetables and the hummus mix that we have there, it's obviously not really going to soak into it. It's not like a juice or a soup or anything. And with the wontons, they're quite crunchy. So they will take a good few hours
And I guess it depends
to start
on the
soaking
weather.
up. Absolutely depends on
So
the
this
weather.
is dry here, not humid, so it lasts longer.
Sure.
And if you're having a rainy party, like I've still served these at rainy parties, but you just don't leave them sitting out
Or
around
do them at the last minute.
for 2 hours and expect them to be lovely when everybody turns up. So the joy of having the bits done with the bases separated, and then you can just quickly whack all your fillings in and here you go.
So Kate, would you, with food like this, would you mainly just serve at room temperature? Like in other words, you know, like when you take it out of the oven and you let it sit, so you then don't have to rely on everything being hot.
Yes.
It's quicker.
Certainly with the quiches and things like that, it's good. You can always just reheat the quiche as well if you need to, just before everybody turns up, so that's great.
I prefer them cold.
You
myself.
prefer them cold?
Yeah.
It gives more flavour, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And with the wonton cups, we did cover in the previous
Some like them hot.
thing which we lost. Obviously you need to consider kitchen health and safety, food, hygiene and handling. So with the chicken ones, you know, you don't leave them out on a stinking hot day if they're going to be around for 2 hours before people come. Just do consider that. And with the quiche, you know, they do contain eggs and dairy, so you must obviously, you know, keep them in the fridge and until you're ready, and then you can just zap them in the oven for a little bit. But definitely room temperature is great, especially when you're in a cold environment or something. You don't want anything that's too cold, or similarly in a hot one, the quiche, as I say, they sort of set a bit more too. So if you make them earlier, you can leave them sitting there and then they will really set quite
And I
nice
think
and
if you try
develop
to
the
pick
flavour.
up something little like that, the heating and it could be a bit of a
You're
problem
right
eating.
about
Whereas
that.
if you,
I fold
you know, you want to
sometimes,
pick up and eat,
Yes,
it's much better, isn't it?
yes it is. So we also made those tomato tarts. They cool down because when they're hot, the tomatoes are very juicy and they're burning hot. And unfortunately, when I first started to make these, the original recipe used a whole tomato, like a normal big sized tomato, and I made them for this Christmas party. And I came in just to see how everyone was going, and every single person had a great big tomato juice blob as they bit into it, and it just went down their shirt. So from that, I learned that perhaps the smaller tomatoes are good because you don't get that big dribble mess. And so, you know, that's a really nice, neat little finger foods snack. But
Right.
you know, if you are going and you have heaps of things in the garden, or something is in season, or you have, you know, leftover curry, as I said, would have been good, but I didn't get it out of the fridge, to fill any of these things. Limited by imagination, you can do whatever you have available, whatever you might like, whatever you feel like, bit of cheese in there, you can fill it with anything. So while the tomato tarts are just finishing off, we'll have a quick look at the puff pastry things that we made as well. Unfortunately, most of these are not actually going to be suitable as a filling thing because we haven't put them into an actual shape. If we'd used the puff pastry and put it into the muffin tin, then it will obviously keep that shape. Whereas where we've just put the rounds on the stove, on the tray, they've kind of puffed up. But we did think about, what do you do when something goes wrong? Contingency plan, change it. So what we've done is we've cut a little hole into the top of that round one, and we can use that as almost like a vol au vent. Or with the larger pillows, you can cut the little square in the top and actually have, it's like, it's an edible
Stew.
pot pie.
Yeah.
Stew, casserole, curry, anything, just put that little lid on, that works really well. We were talking before about a deconstructed pie, so we've got, you know, the leaf toppers, that looks pretty cool, and you can just put your meat filling or whatever with that on the top, and so there you have your pie bit. And Shirley's tiny little croutons, they turned out quite cute. You can definitely also see the difference between using the egg wash and not using the egg wash. Yep. So oftentimes that does look a little bit more professional finish than that. Not that anyone's going to go, oh my god, that's not professional finish, I'm not going to eat it.
Yeah.
But it does, you can see the difference quite distinctly. Then with the hummus that's left over and the tzatziki that we didn't use, we've got some perfect little dipper twists for that as well. So how simple are they to just whip out lots and lots of them? You did a really good job here, everybody, turning all of these little pieces out. Betty, if you'd just like to grab that tray there, because we'll have a look at Bruce's rose. Unfortunately, you've got this cool little roundy thing. How cute is that? That'd work well. Possibly even we can use these as garnishes. So there's food for thought. Certainly the triangular bits might look nice. But the rose, we might need to do a little bit more work on that because that...
More toothpicks, it needs support, you know.
So that was outside the scope of this
Yeah,
class.
it's and also there's some on the table, but just
We
the
had
same.
someone do us adventures, didn't we?
So I think, has everybody covered everybody's questions and applications of where we might be able to use this? Yep, excellent, and I'm really thrilled to hear that you're going to have a bit of a go. Now I've got the evaluation forms over here. If we just get into those ones. Here we go. If I can just give you one of these. As I said in the beginning, you can see there's points 1 to 5 where you strongly disagree for number 1, or 5 is strongly agree with the comments in those little boxes. At the bottom you'll see what I liked best about this training session was, and there you go, what I liked least about this training session was. But I'd just like to recap that we can see what we have produced here. So we have managed to take those spaces that we made in the first lesson, we've now filled them with something and created something which is pretty much ready to plate up and start serving. So well done everyone, you've achieved that. And working with each of you, you know, it's good to hear your different suggestions and ideas. And also when you go and make these, hopefully with someone else helping you, you might be able to use some of those tips that we've learned through today. So thank you very much. there's a couple of pens here. I'll just get these little puff things out of the way so you've got a little bit of space.
What's the session title?
So this session title was the filling.
Just
Yes.
filling?
fancy food filling, but just filling is quite okay. You need another pen to That's great.
What's the date?
Today is the 9th.
Because tomorrow's the 10th. That's a
Oh,
great day.
You know that.
Oh, that's right, it's your birthday, Georgie.
And they'd be perfect as
Doesn't
school
matter.
lunches as well, these things.
Wouldn't
Yes.
Yeah, really easy.
Oh dear. Oh, thank you. And thank you everybody too. Thank you especially to Georgie who's doing the filming. It's a tradies pencil. We've done a bit of contingency dancing in the middle here because, as I said, we did a lot of this stuff on the film, which unfortunately we lost and couldn't start again because we had already used all the ingredients and made the pies and the quiche.
Just Kate. Sasha? What? Fancy food filling.
But thank you, and thank you, Georgie, for juggling that so that we could still get a lesson out. I hope that this has covered enough points for the assessment. But thank you everyone for participating and for agreeing to be filmed.
Thanks, Kate.
Thanks,
Kate.
Kate.
Showing us all this
It's been so informative. We've learned so much. I couldn't have a better teacher. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Right,
I'm blushing. And then, as I say, the final assessment for all of these 3 courses run back to back will be at the end of our next session, which is the plating and presentation, where we will have all of these spread out like something very appetising, and we will actually get to taste all of the products which we've
Really?
made.
Fantastic. Look
So,
forward to it.
this one here, Kate.
Yes. So the used resources. In that case, our
Yeah,
resources
that's the one.
today have been pretty much the trays and the tins and the things.
Okay,
However,
Readable, useful, unaided,
probably
understanding. Is it not?
useful
not
and
I would
applicable?
say it's not
That's
applicable
what I
at
thought
this
too.
point,
Yeah, okay.
but because during this lesson we don't need to refer to our recipes,
yeah,
because this is really just about doing the bases
yeah,
and then putting the fillings in rather than actually making them.
yeah,
And I wanted to leave that a bit to your imagination.
yeah.
However, there is a recipe handout. So rather than get it all covered in food and have everyone looking at their resource, because this was an interactive and participative lesson, I have that as a digital resource and I will email that to you so you can refer back to any of the tips about today and any of the recipes which I have included, even the ones which I'd already pre-made. And if you would like a printed copy of that, I can give you that. I have some printed over there ready to go for anybody who might like a printed copy for a recipe folder or something instead. And thank you very much once again. I'll just get you to put your evaluation forms over at the side there. We'll just break now for another 10-15 minutes or so.